Having the wrong socks can ruin a backpacking trip. Trust me, I've been there. On the table here, I have over 20 pairs of socks that I've used in the last 5 years, dialing my own system in, and I'm gonna share that with you today because there are socks on here that would completely ruin your trip and I would never recommend. There are socks on here that are also totally worth the money and will change your life on the trail. So with that, let's dive into the best, the worst, and the weird but maybes. By the way, stay to the end of this video where I'll give you my #1 favorite sock for hiking and backpacking and what I'd recommend for you. All right, so let's start by talking about the worst socks here on the table, the ones that you absolutely want to avoid. And we're gonna start with the basics. First off, you've got right here your typical cotton sock. Now, cotton will hold on to moisture, and as soon as you start sweating or get wet on the trail, this is gonna get your feet extremely cold and very, very uncomfortable. This sock right here is your typical athletic sock. Now these are often form-fitting. They have a high amount of spandex in the material, but that spandex will definitely develop odor over time. It's a little bit more heavy. While an athletic sock with all of that spandex in it does retain its shape pretty well, and that is a key component of finding the right sock, it is still not my favorite for backpacking. See, if you get another sock that maybe does not hold its shape over time, by day 2 and day 3, you're gonna start to develop blisters. So let's jump into my third least favorite sock here on the table, and that is this sock right here. It is called the right sock, which is actually the wrong sock. Here's why. Inside of this sock, there are 2 separate layers, meaning that there's kind of an inner sock that is connected to the outer sock so that as you are going down the trail, the inner sock can move independently of the outer sock. And if I pull that inside out, you'll be able to see the inner sock there. While this is a great concept, I found that it just did not work in practicality. The inner sock would often move or bunch up, or the outer sock would move and bunch up independently, and over time I was constantly trying to adjust it. Again, it's a good idea, but there's a better way to execute it, which I'm gonna talk about here right now. So with that, let's move into the next category of weird but maybe. Some of these socks that I'm gonna talk about in this category will be fan favorites. In fact, if it is your fan favorite, you can drop that in the comments. But this right here is a better way to execute the double sock system. While this may look like a pantyhose, because it probably is the same material as a pantyhose, this is called a sock liner. You can see how thin that is. I can see my fingers there. I don't know if you guys can, but this sock liner is used to go inside of another sock, so you have 2 socks on at one time. Why would you want to have one sock inside of another? It is, again, for all of that movement or friction. For me personally, when I might use this is with a bigger, stiffer boot. When I've got a bigger, stiffer boot that I'm not wearing that often, you can develop those hot spots, and especially really, really quickly, and this often works well for that. Some of you may choose to use this more often, but that's the application that I like to use, which is why I classified it as a weird but maybe. Next up is our down socks right here. While these are totally awesome, these are not meant for hiking around in. Make sure to use these only inside your sleeping bag or top quilt. You should definitely know that. Another sock that has a very cult-like following but might not work for you and you'll want to check into are extremely form-fitting socks. This sock right here is actually so form-fitting that on the toe, it will tell you which foot it's supposed to go on, the left or the right foot. It is mapped very specifically for your foot, and if you get a good fit with this, meaning this sock fits your foot perfectly, these can be really, really nice. The problem I found is that they don't always fit your foot perfectly, and then you're left with a sock that is tight in an area or something along those lines. So do these work for some people? Absolutely. Do they work for the general populace? Not as often. What about all of you guys out there that just love an absolutely thick pair of wool socks? Something like this. These puppies have all the loft in the world and they look so warm, but should you go backpacking in them? My answer is no. And the other side of that coin too is, what about these socks right here? These are incredibly, incredibly thin socks. So when is the right application for each of these? Now personally, I've seen people bring these for sleeping in, but in my opinion, the weight to warmth ratio just is not worth it. I'd rather have something like a down sock. And on the flip side, you've got these that are incredibly small and incredibly light. And while they work well, often you'll see just the overall footprint, they have to put a lot of spandex in these and they crunch my foot quite a lot. So if you like a lot of compression, sometimes these lighter weight socks, these are some darn tough socks, can work for you. Between these 2 socks, they are kind of the extreme in thicknesses and weight. While some of these might work for a few of you out there, it's probably not gonna work for the general populace. So again, not gonna recommend that for everybody. So before I give you the absolute best socks on the table that I do recommend, we do need to talk about a few key aspects of those socks. Number one, we just talked about the weights of these socks. What is the right weight? For me personally, a midweight to a lightweight is the key area that I like to be in. Anything that's heavier than that can sometimes just hold on to extra moisture because there's so much sock or so much material there. What about material? What material should you be getting? And this is actually gonna be the bonus tip here in the video, is if you are on a budget, just understanding the materials can help you choose something. You'll see right here, I've got a sock that I picked up for $5. This is one that I actually bought for $3. In fact, this is a great one. It's the best brand I've ever seen. It's called People Socks. I bought these for $3 a pair, and I bought a bunch of them, and I've used them for years, actually just coming to and from the office and other places. I don't typically backpack with them, but the reason why is I knew the composition. So on the side of this right here, you can find merino wool socks out there that claim merino wool socks, and there's literally 5%, 10% merino wool in them. But if you can see a breakdown, like this one right here says 57% merino wool, 27% polyester, 18% nylon, 1% spandex. So it's got low spandex, medium to high merino wool. That is a sock that I would buy and is worth $5 to me. Typically, I'm looking for something with the merino wool content between about 40 to 65%. The rest of it I want to be either a polyester or a nylon with a low percentage of spandex. But knowing that, I was able to score these for $5 at Walmart. So the last thing to note here before we get into the best socks on the table is the fit. I mentioned this earlier, but fit is extremely important. You don't want something, in my opinion, that is too tight on your toes. You also don't want something that can loosen or bag over time. So example, this sock right here does have a higher tendency to stretch. It has a very high merino wool content in it with low nylon or poly or spandex. If you have too much merino wool, let's say it's like an 85% merino wool sock, what can happen is this can bag out over time. If it gets wet, it will totally start losing its shape. If you just wear it 3 or 4 days in a row, it'll start to lose its shape, and that becomes problematic and will create blisters for you in the backcountry. So make sure you stay within those parameters of the overall composition, and give us some tests at your own house. Wet it out, see how well it retains its shape. All right, so the moment you guys have all been waiting for, my favorite socks here on the table. I'm gonna give you 3 of them, and I'm gonna put them in 2 different categories. Starting with trail running, before I get to hiking, I have 2 socks here that I wanna show you. This right here is the Injinji toe socks. Some of you have maybe heard of them. Some of you think that I'm crazy for wearing toe socks. I don't look that crazy out on the trail, not like the guys wearing the finger shoes, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, I'm not that guy, but I do sometimes wear these on the trail, especially when I'm trail running. I took these ones out. These are merino wool ones. These ones are a polyester nylon blend, so a synthetic blend. And I took these merino wool ones out on a winter trip and nearly lost my toes to frostbite. I swear they're so cold. And that's one of the advantages with them. By separating out all of your toes, they seem to keep your feet colder and prevent more blisters. So because of that, this sock right here, the synthetic version of it, is now my favorite trail running sock. So let's talk about my favorite hiking socks now. What is my number 1 favorite hiking sock of all time, the one that I'm going to recommend to you that is totally worth the money and will treat your toes so nice on the trail? Well, it's between these 2 socks right here. This is a smart wool sock. This is a darn tough sock. You will see these are lightweight socks with targeted cushion. That's my favorite. I do like the cushion, but I don't want too much of it to hold on to extra moisture. And between these 2, I do have a favorite. This one right here has shrunk a little bit on me over time, and the last time I did wear it was a little bit tighter on my toes, which I did not love. But more so, the other factor that has made me choose the darn tough sock as my number 1 favorite sock is also the warranty that comes with this darn tough sock. You are buying a sock for a lifetime. If you ever put a hole in this thing, you can send it back to them and replace it, which is good when you're paying about 20 bucks for a sock. So what sock is this exactly? Well, this is the Hike/Trek quarter sock. It is a lightweight with cushion from Darn Tough. The exciting part here is if you're a Live Ultralight membership, you can now get this inside the membership at your discount and with rebates. So also, if you're not a member, you should definitely go over there and become a member, because now you can buy Darn Tough at the cheapest price possible inside that membership. We're gonna be retailing these along with some light, ultralight ones with cushion and the full-sized boot cut ones. So you can get all of these inside the membership. These are the ones that we've proven. The 20 plus socks here on the table, and the other members of our team that have tested socks over their lifetimes, these are the best socks we've ever used, and these are what we recommend for you to purchase. While backpacking socks can absolutely make or break a trip, so can a few other items. We're gonna link a video right here to another backpacking essential that can definitely make or break your trip. Thanks for joining us. Make sure you're subscribed to our channel, and we'll see you guys out on the trail.